husband said. "This is your moment." Those words echoed in my ears like a distant thunder. Right before the door swung open and my entire career hung in the balance. I stood there in the dimly lit hallway of the corporate office, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat, the faint scent of stale coffee and printer ink clinging to the air. It was just 2 minutes' notice. 2 minutes to prepare for the meeting that could make or break everything I'd worked for over 20 years. I remember that day like it was etched into my skin. My name is Eleanor, and back then, I was a mid-level manager at a bustling marketing firm in the heart of the city. At 48, I clawed my way up from an entry-level assistant, balancing spreadsheets and client pitches while raising 2 teenagers at home. Life felt steady, if not exactly thrilling. My husband, Tom, was my rock. A quiet accountant who always knew how to steady my nerves with a cup of chamomile tea after a long day. We'd been married for 25 years, our home filled with the cozy chaos of family dinners, where the aroma of my homemade lasagna would waft through the kitchen, drawing everyone to the table. Our daughter, Sarah, was off at college, studying art, and our son, Mike, was navigating high school with that awkward teenage grace. Tom and I would sit on the porch swing in the evenings, his hand warm in mine, talking about dreams we tucked away for later. Work was my passion, though, those late nights poring over reports, the satisfaction of landing a big account. Little did I know, the ground beneath me was about to shift. That morning started like so many others. I woke to the soft patter of rain against the bedroom window, the kind of gray drizzle that makes you want to stay under the covers just 5 more minutes. Tom was already up, his side of the bed cool, the faint smell of his aftershave lingering on the pillow. Downstairs I could hear the clink of a spoon against a cereal bowl and the low murmur of the morning news. I slipped into my favorite navy blazer, the one with the tiny fray at the cuff that I kept meaning to mend, and smoothed my hair in the hallway mirror. My reflection looked tired but determined. Another day of proving I belonged in rooms where decisions were made. At breakfast, Tom slid a mug of coffee across the table without a word. Black, 2 sugars, just how I like it. He was reading emails on his phone, brow furrowed in that quiet way of his. "Big day?" he asked, not looking up. "Client presentation at 10, I said. "The Henderson account. If we land this, it could mean senior director by next quarter." He nodded slowly, then set the phone down. His eyes met mine for the first time that morning, steady, almost too steady. "You've earned it, Elle. This is your moment." I smiled, warmth spreading through my chest. Those words felt like a blessing. I leaned over and kissed the top of his head, breathing in the familiar scent of his shampoo. "Wish me luck." "You don't need luck," he said softly. "You've got everything else." I grabbed my bag, the leather strap creaking under my fingers, and headed out into the rain. The drive to the office was quiet except for the rhythm of the wipers. I rehearsed my pitch in my head, feeling the familiar flutter of nerves and excitement. Everything was lining up. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my boss, Carla. "Emergency all-hands meeting. Conference room A. 11:15 sharp. Be there." No explanation, just that. I stared at the screen as the light turned green, horns blaring behind me. My stomach twisted. 11:15 was less than 2 hours away, and right in the middle of my biggest presentation of the year. I pulled into the office parking lot, the rain now a steady drum against the windshield, mirroring the unease settling in my gut. The text from Carla gnawed at me. Emergency meetings weren't unheard of, but this felt off. Too abrupt, no details. I shook it off, grabbing my umbrella and dashing inside, the cool lobby air hitting me like a slap. The receptionist, Maria, waved with her usual bright smile, but I barely registered it. Up the elevator, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead, and I was at my desk, firing off a quick email to my team. "Presentation delayed? What's going on?" No response. Minutes ticked by on the clock above my monitor, each one louder in the quiet hum of keyboards and muffled phone calls. I tried focusing on my notes, but my mind wandered back to Tom's words. "This is your moment." He'd said it with such conviction, like he knew something I didn't. Or maybe I was just overthinking. Tom was always the steady one. He wouldn't sugarcoat if there was trouble. Around 11 o'clock, Carla poked her head into my cubicle, her face tight, lips pressed into a thin line. "Eleanor, conference room. Now." She didn't wait for questions, just turned on her heel, her sensible pumps clicking down the hall. I followed, heart picking up speed. The conference room door was ajar, voices murmuring inside, low, serious tones that made my skin prickle. I pushed it open, and there they were, the senior execs, my team, and Tom? He was seated at the far end of the table, in a chair usually reserved for clients, his tie straight, hands folded neatly. Our eyes met, and he gave a small nod, but there was something in his expression, guarded, almost apologetic. What was he doing here? Accountants didn't attend marketing meetings. Confusion swirled in my chest like the steam from a forgotten cup of tea. I slid into a seat, the leather creaking under me, and whispered to my colleague next to me. "What's this about?" She shrugged, eyes wide. "No idea, but it looks serious." The room fell silent as the CEO cleared his throat, his voice booming. "We're here to discuss a major restructuring. And Eleanor, this directly involves you." My pulse thundered. Tom's gaze stayed on me, steady but distant. Why did it feel like the air had thickened? Like everyone knew a secret except me. The CEO's words hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire, thick and choking. Restructuring, he said, his voice measured, almost rehearsed. He clicked through a few slides on the projector, charts and graphs blurring into meaningless lines as my eyes kept flicking to Tom. Why was he here? My mind raced. Had he been consulting for the company? But no, he'd never mentioned it. His firm was small, unrelated. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in, the faint whir of the air conditioner the only sound besides my shallow breaths. Eleanor, the CEO continued, turning to me with that practiced sympathy executives wear like a second skin. Your contributions to the Henderson account have been invaluable, but in light of recent developments, we're making some changes to leadership roles. Developments? My throat tightened. I glanced at Carla, who avoided my eyes, fiddling with a pen that clicked rhythmically against the table. Click, click, like a countdown. Then Tom spoke up, his voice calm, too calm, cutting through the tension like a knife through butter. Eleanor, I think it's time we discussed this openly. Discussed what? I turned to him, my chair scraping against the floor as I shifted. Tom, what are you? He held up a hand, gentle but firm, and pulled a folder from his briefcase. The one I recognized from our home office, the leather worn from years of use. Inside were documents, emails printed out, timestamps glaring like accusations. I've been reviewing the company's finances, he said, his tone even, but I caught the slight tremor in his fingers as he slid the folder toward the CEO. And Eleanor's handling of the budget for the Henderson project. There were discrepancies. Discrepancies? My world tilted. Those weren't discrepancies. They were my notes, my strategies. Wait, no. As the pages flipped open, I saw it. Forged entries, inflated numbers that made it look like I'd siphoned funds for personal use. But I hadn't. My hands shook as I grabbed the folder, the paper crinkling under my grip. Tom, what is this? This isn't. It's evidence. He interrupted softly, his eyes meeting mine with a sadness that twisted deeper than anger. I found it while helping with your taxes. I had to report it. For the company's sake. For ours. Betrayal hit like a wave crashing over me. Cold and unrelenting. My husband, the man who'd kissed me goodbye that morning, had turned me in. The room spun, whispers rising from the team, Carla's pen finally still. Heartbreak clawed at my chest, raw and disbelieving. How could he? I sat frozen. The folder still open in front of me like an accusation carved in black ink. The numbers stared back. Every line item I'd approved twisted into something ugly, something criminal. My signature was there, yes, but the amounts, they weren't mine. Someone had altered them. Someone had made it look like I'd been skimming for years. And Tom, my Tom, had been the one to uncover it. Or so he said. The room was deathly quiet except for the soft ticking of the wall clock and someone's nervous cough. I looked up at him, searching for the man who'd once held me through my father's funeral, who'd cried with me when Sarah left for college. His face was composed, almost serene, but his knuckles were white around the edge of the table. Why didn't you tell me first? My voice came out small, cracked at the edges. We could have looked at this together. You could have asked me. Tom exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding the breath for weeks. I wanted to protect you, Elle. If I'd come to you and been wrong, or if you were involved somehow. He let the sentence die, the implication landing like a stone in my stomach. I had to go through proper channels. The company's integrity. Integrity. The word tasted bitter. I turned to the CEO. You're taking his word over 20 years of my work? Over every late night, every successful campaign. Carla finally spoke, her voice low. We have to investigate, Eleanor. Standard procedure. You're on paid leave, effective immediately. 2 weeks minimum. Paid leave. The polite term for suspension. My chest ached as if someone had reached in and squeezed. I stood, legs unsteady, gathering my things with trembling hands. The pen I'd been holding clattered to the floor. No one moved to pick it up. Tom reached for my arm as I passed. Eleanor, please. I pulled away, not roughly, just enough to break contact. Don't. I walked out. The hallway stretched forever, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry insects. Behind me, the conference room door clicked shut, sealing away the life I thought I knew. That night, I sat alone in our kitchen. The house too quiet without the usual sounds of Tom humming while he washed dishes or Mike's music leaking from upstairs. The lasagna pan from last week still sat in the sink, tomato sauce dried to a crust. I stared at it until my eyes burned. How long had he known? How long had he watched me, collected evidence, planned this moment? And why did it feel less like protection and more like erasure? The days blurred into a haze after that meeting. I didn't go back to the office. Paid leave sounded like a gift, but it was a cage. I wandered the house like a ghost, touching familiar things. The framed photo of our wedding on the mantel, dust gathering in the corners. The throw blanket Tom and I had picked out during a rare weekend getaway, now folded neatly on the couch where he'd sat, plotting. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump, expecting him to walk through the door with explanations. But he didn't come home that first night, or the second. On the third day, I started digging. Not dramatically, not with some spy thriller flair. Just quietly, methodically, the way I'd approached every problem in my career. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, the screen's glow casting shadows on the walls, and began with our joint bank statements. The cursor hovered over the files, my finger trembling slightly on the mouse. We'd shared everything for years, no secrets, or so I'd thought. There it was, transfers I didn't recognize, small amounts at first, then larger. From our savings to an account in Tom's name only. Not embezzlement from the company, but from us. From the nest egg we'd built for retirement, for the kids' futures. My breath caught as I cross-referenced dates. They lined up perfectly with the discrepancies in the work documents. He'd planted those too, framing me to cover his own tracks. Gambling? An affair? I didn't know yet, but the betrayal burned deeper now, a slow fire in my veins. I printed everything, the printer whirring softly in the quiet house, pages stacking like evidence in a trial. Then I called a lawyer, a friend from college who'd handled a messy divorce years ago. Her voice was steady on the phone, warm like chamomile. Eleanor, this sounds airtight, but confront him first? Or go straight to the authorities? I paused, staring at the rain-streaked window. Confrontation felt raw, necessary. Both, I said finally, but on my terms. That evening, when Tom finally came home, keys jingling in the lock, the door opening with a hesitant creak, I was waiting in the living room, the documents spread out on the coffee table like a map of our ruined trust. The air smelled of damp earth from outside, mingling with the faint citrus of his cologne as he stepped in. His eyes widened, just a flicker, before the mask slipped back on. Eleanor, I can explain. Sit down, I said, my voice calm, though my hands clenched in my lap. This is our moment now. Tom hesitated in the doorway, the light from the hall casting long shadows across his face, making him look older, wearier than the man I'd known. The documents lay between us on the table, illuminated by the soft glow of the lamp, their edges curling slightly from the humidity in the air. He closed the door with a quiet click, the sound echoing like a finality. Slowly, he sat down across from me, his hands resting on his knees, fingers twitching as if fighting the urge to reach for something. Me, perhaps, or an escape. I didn't want it to come to this, he started, his voice low, laced with that familiar timbre that used to soothe me after tough days. But now it grated like sandpaper on raw skin. He glanced at the papers, then back at me, eyes pleading. The company, they were auditing anyway. I thought if I brought it forward first, it would look better for you. Protect your reputation. I shook my head, the motion slow, deliberate. Just don't lie anymore, Tom. These transfers from our account to yours, the dates match the forgeries at work. You didn't discover discrepancies. You created them. To cover your gambling debts? Or whatever hole you've dug yourself into? His shoulders slumped, the air between us thickening with unspoken truths. He rubbed his face, the stubble rasping under his palm, and for a moment, I saw the vulnerability. The man who'd once been my partner. It started small, poker nights with the guys from my firm. I thought I could win it back, but it snowballed. Panicked, altering those records. It was supposed to be temporary. Shift the blame until I could fix it. Temporary. The word hung there, absurd. Tears pricked my eyes, but I held them back, my voice steady. You chose to destroy me instead. Our marriage, our life. For what? He reached across the table, but I pulled back. I'm sorry, Elle. I never meant. Sorry doesn't undo this. I gathered the documents, stacking them neatly, my hands steadier now. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow, and the company will know the truth, the real one. Our kids. They'll hear it from me, not whispers. He nodded, defeated, the weight of it all etching lines deeper into his face. As he stood to leave the room, the floorboards creaking under his steps, a part of me ached. Not for him, but for the life we'd lost. But in that ache, strength bloomed. I wouldn't crumble. I'd rebuild. In the weeks that followed, the truth unraveled like a thread pulled from a well-worn sweater. The company launched a full investigation, and with the evidence I'd gathered, Tom's fabrications came to light. He was let go from his firm, quietly, but word spread through our small professional circles, the kind of quiet disgrace that lingers longer than shouts. Our children, Sarah and Mike, were heartbroken at first, their calls filled with tears and questions that echoed my own pain. But they stood by me, helping pack boxes as I moved into a cozy apartment downtown, the scent of fresh paint mixing with the steam from takeout coffee we'd share late into the night. Forgiveness? Not yet for Tom, but for myself, yes. I learned that strength isn't in never breaking. It's in piecing yourself back together, shard by shard. Today, I'm back at work, promoted even, leading my own team with the wisdom of what betrayal taught me. Life moves forward, warmer in unexpected ways. And through it all, I've held on to one truth. Trust is a gift, but self-trust is the foundation. Now, darlings, would you have confronted him like I did? Or walked away quietly? Tell me in the comments below. Your stories help us all heal. If this touched your heart, like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more tales from Auntie May. Until next time, hold your loved ones close, but your truths closer.